Welcome to Shameless. Here we explore the transformative power of courage and action.
Another week, another dollar. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Dzikamai and I'm your host of the Shameless podcast, brought to you by T4L. And today we have Jahzz McKinney. Jahzz, welcome to T4L.
Oh, thank you, DK. It is absolutely great to be here.
For those of you who've heard DK for the first time, that is what people who are close to me call me. So Jahzz, just know that you are part of the family as you enter this podcast.
Oh, you know, the real truth is I can't pronounce your name. That's the real truth.
I appreciate your honesty. People might be asking, so who is Jahzz and what is Jahzz about? So Jahzz his actual name is Dwight McKinney. He's the founder and CEO of Dwight McKinney Group, DMG, which is a management company for several African projects. He is a strategic collaborator who presently serves as the president of the Administrative Council for the Center of Creative Leadership in Angola. He's also the vice president and senior consultant of 360 Circulars, Inc., out of the United States, and is an administrator of new business development and investment in Africa for ATO International Consulting. I mean, if that's not a lot, Jahzz has also been in this business for over 50 years, helping businesses grow and succeed. He's a seasoned entrepreneur and consults to small businesses with a passion for leadership development. Well, I've known Jahzz not too long, and one thing I can tell you is a proactive thought leader and a motivational speaker. Jahzz constantly challenges conventional thinking, and he looks to inspire new ideas and approaches toward doing business. Jahzz, welcome to today's episode of Shameless.
Thank you, DK. It is just great to be here. It's great to be in Africa. I found my home. Africa brought me out of retirement. I thought I was going to sit back and have an easy life. I got to Africa and I just couldn't leave. And I tell you, so much opportunity here. It's not about the American dream, but it's about the African dream. And we have to realize that all over the world, the Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese, they're in Africa because there's something special here.
Jahzz, tell me, how the hell did you make your way all the way down to Angola within Africa? What did you see? What inspired you? You said you wanted to retire, but here you are, busy looking to, support women, igniting the flame within some students and working and uplifting small to medium-sized enterprises across the African context. How did you get here? Please shed some light.
I was invited here by a business colleague who was involved in a mining project. And, things were kind of really tough, challenging. And to be honest with you, I just did not know, I didn't have any expertise in the field that he asked me to come, but he said, I cannot go without you. And as time went on, I just was really kind of frustrated a little bit, wanted to go back home to my calm life. But as I was riding down the street, seeing the women with children on their back, different situations, different challenges, I realized that the greatest treasure and the greatest treasure in Africa was not in the ground, but was within the people. And I felt that's where I can have an impact upon helping that treasure, that hidden treasure in the people just to come out and shine. And that vision, I could say I had a hold of a vision. As I was talking to my wife, I realized, I told her, if I had a hold of a vision, I could let it go. But in this case, I don't have hold of the vision. The vision for Africa has a hold of me, and it's calling my name, and I have to answer. And I came back, and I've been working ever since.
You essentially were drawn to this space, and though you arrived for something else, you found yourself in this in this world where you're engulfed into the people and building leaders and building dreams for individuals. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. You have over 65% of Africa is under the age of 25 and under here in Angola, and they are the future leaders. And I think we have a social responsibility, a moral responsibility. Those of us who had some success or have some knowledge or some leadership, to come back and to give. And it's about African wealth belongs to African people. And it's really a shame that with all this wealth, the wealthiest continent on the planet, yet people are living in poverty and struggling, while other countries such as France or whatever are benefiting off of what's coming out of Africa. And I felt I needed to make an impact in this last century of my life.
Well, so that's very interesting because, I mean, there's loads of potential. Lots of people have talked about, the next decade, the next years are going to be where Africans are able to stand up and be counted. So in your view, what factors do you believe would contribute towards a successful adaptation within African businesses, both the development and investment? What are those factors that you think could really make a success and drive businesses within Africa?
Well, as I think about your question, I think one of the things that's going to help with successful adaptation of African business development investment, which I'm involved in, there are a lot of things that influence those, and some of those factors are, understanding the local market, understanding the culture, regulations from place to place. I think it's important to partner with local businesses and individuals that can provide valuable insights and networks. I think you have to consider a stable political condition, of course, is a challenge in Africa. There are some things that are uniquely challenging in Africa. Infrastructure, when you talk about infrastructure development, so there needs to be adequate infrastructure, reliable transportation. We talk about power supply. I've been in the dark for a couple of days now. And then you talk about access to finance. So availability of financing, and whether it be capital, venture capital loans or grants or whatever the case may be. I think you have to have a deep understanding, some understanding of technology adoption, embracing technology, which was a challenge for an old bird like me. And, but sometimes the question is not about what you know, or how to do something. A lot of people struggle with, how do I do this? How do I do this? And sometimes your answer, your solution is in a who. Who do I know that can do this? And that goes a long way to mentoring that process. So those are some of the things that when you talk about, adaptation to African business development, those are some of the influences that can factor those things.
And Jahzz, so how long have you actually been sitting in Angola, working out of Angola?
This is going on my third year.
Your third year, right? So
3 years.
Would you be able to, 3 years, so would you be able to provide, like, let's say, an example of an instance where adaptivity has played a crucial role in navigating maybe a complex scenario within some of the projects that you've been involved in? Because, I mean, we've listed a few aspects that are maybe challenging, and they are relatively high level. And I'm very curious to understand a specific instance where some of these things have come forward.
When you're talking about adapting here, as an American, African American in Africa, well, I think a lot of the struggles we had at the beginning in coming here we rushed into some things, And the truth is, money doesn't fix everything. We rush into some things, having some certain financial backing to do certain things, but we did not have a real good understanding or embracing of the culture. And there were some things that we were going to have to adapt if we were going to be successful. And some things, when we talk about complex business issues, but some things were just simple, getting understanding of some simple things. Let me give you one example. I interviewed over 100 people. And one of the questions that I had in those interviews as I was putting together staff had to do with your ideal leader or your ideal manager, supervisor. And without exception, over 100 interviews, one of the things that everyone told me was, hey, you know what? We don't have leaders here, we have bosses. We don't have leaders, we have bosses. So that mentality of do what you're told, don't ever do anything outside of what you're asked to do, those kind of environments hinder progress, hinder innovation, hinder creativity, because the employees were not allowed to contribute to a meaningful process. So in giving instructions, I had to realize the flip side of that coin was, now that we're inviting people into an environment of people who actually know leadership, who understand leadership, the flip side of that was we had people who now had a leader, but they were not equipped to know how to follow a leader. So it was not just about having a good leader, but it was about that training of, now that you have a leader, you've been with the boss so long, you're almost paralyzed. You don't know how to think. You're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid of losing your job. And so getting people to be innovative and pulling that treasure of creativity out of them became one of the ways that I had to stop, adjust, and understand that people were not poor workers. They had just been, because of the impact of colonization and, boss, hey boss, okay boss, that kind of mentality. I had to take some time and step back and do some training to teach people how to work with good leadership.
And so, I love that point, because a lot of what I've seen is a lot of people get crippled by fear. And we talk about you need a good leader, but a lot of the time, but one thing that we seldom talk about is building the tools for you to be able to work with a leader and to also stand up and be heard. And it takes a lot out of a conversation, out of adaptability, out of success. If the people who you're working with aren't actually giving as much as you're getting, and then it's a skill that you have to grow. Now, how do you build that ability? What did you said you had to undertake some coaching or training in order to unravel people's full potential? What did that look like, and how did you actually do that? What tools did people have to start unlocking for them to be able to start working in an environment where they can contribute to a problem and or not necessarily be led by a boss, but rather to be in an environment where leadership and their voices can be heard through the process?
Well, let me, two things, and they may not necessarily be tools, but they are important values and principles that leaders in Africa will have to embrace. And that is, if you aspire to be a great leader, and you are driven by the bottom line, driven by a profit, there's pitfalls in that kind of mentality. And there seems to be a strong environment where people or leaders are saying, well, what's the bottom line? How much money did I make? Let me share this, because it's an important principle to me. Great leaders care about the people that they lead. And I don't care what your bottom line is, if you do not care about people and have empathy, it's gonna affect your organization in the long run. And so when we talk about developing teams, the most important ingredient, the most important aspect of team building is building trust. Trust is the key word here, trust. And when you can bring your employees to a place, especially in Africa, where your employees are facing inadequate infrastructure. If they get off from work late at night, it could be 3 hours getting a ride home. I mean, these are some of the situations we deal with in Angola. If you want a job, but the transportation is bad. If it rains, there's a problem with people getting to work on time or even getting to work at all, depending on where they live. People are afraid. Literally, if you lose your job, it could be another year before you find another job. So, I mean, with all of these challenges, there has to be some empathy in your leadership. And I think when you show people that you care, you show people that you're committed to their development, that they can trust that. Not that you always agree, but that they always heard. You practice active listening and encourage open communication, encourage continuous learning, and willing to have some flexibility. I think these are strategies that will help in what we just talked about.
And so what you just talked about is fantastic for a leader and somebody who's looking to build their leadership skills and have the right tools in order to be able to grow and build a team. I mean, trust is cardinal to it. But how about if you are being led? If you're being led by somebody might not necessarily be that strong of a leader, or who could be a boss, who could view the world in a very different context. And now you carry all the fear. You carry all the risk about, I have to comply more so than I have to be able to challenge or be able to be heard. How then does one navigate in a space like that? Because, I mean, you're so right. A lot of the cultures that we live in has got a very clear hierarchy, and that hierarchy might not always welcome a challenge, might not always welcome somebody talking back to them. And so in that space, we've talked about the tools that a leader who wants to get better at leading individuals might look like. But what do the tools that an individual who is in the other side of the coin might look like to them?
Well, you know, I think I just had this conversation with someone, DK, and in that kind of environment. And one of the things that I shared with them is perspective and to have a growth mindset. But to understand that smart people, let me put it this way, hope no one's offended that's listening. Smart people learn from everything and everybody. Average people learn from experience. Stupid people know everything already. So, so you always have to be in a growth mindset. Every situation is teaching you something. And so when we talk about continuous learning, building up your confidence, building up your value, building up yourself, saying, what am I supposed to learn about this? In life, you have to learn how to deal with different individuals. But no situation that you are in is permanent. You have the ability to change that situation. And the way you change it is by knowledge. You continue to learn. And when somebody interferes with your learning process, then that's a problem for you, because you're going to be stuck where you are. So I tell people, listen, what is it that you're learning here? Smart people learn from anything and everybody and everything. So in the situation that you're in, understand this is the kind of leader that you have. It's their shortcoming, not yours. Continue to do everything that you can do with the limitations that's set before you to make that company great. Rise to the top. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm saying that your only competition in this life is to be a better you. And if you can master that, you are going places.
You know, the thing about that is that it really ties in with the quote for the day that I've got. It's actually Charles Darwin who said this. And the quote is, "It is not the strongest of the species that's alive, nor is it the most intelligent that's alive. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change." And for me, when you talk about the perspective of an individual is one of the most important things, where you are able to look at something and learn from any situation. That's what makes you smart compared to somebody who already knows everything. If you know everything, you're not likely to change. You're not open-minded. You're not flexible. You don't have that continuous learning sort of view on life, and you definitely don't have a growth mindset and that just cripples you. And so I think whoever you're talking to, I mean, they must have. I hope they wrote you down in their diary, because you really threw some really good nuggets at them there.
Sometimes people in power, the more power a person has, sometimes the less likely they are to listen, because they have this power, and this power at times makes them deaf. I have the answers, I'm the leader, I know, and you can't possibly know as much as I do. And sometimes the liability of power is the inability to know how to listen. And when I'm dealing with people, sometimes I have to recognize this person has power. They're not really.
And you know, the one of the crazy thing about that is the ability to not only self-regulate but self-introspect is something that is so difficult for a lot of people, because you might think you're doing great, and at the end of the day you will do more harm than good. You will not be an adaptive leader, you will not be an inspirational leader, but rather you will, at times it's harder to know. I mean, a fish in water is the last one to know it's in water. You might be sitting in a space, if you're not listening to the water around you, I mean, you're going to be dead in the water.
You have to be inclusive. I mean, there are a lot of issues that arise in a company, in a corporation, an organization, that can be solved not by one man, woman sitting behind a desk trying to make a decision, but bringing the players, bringing the stakeholders together, bringing the employees together, and having some transparency and saying, here's the challenge that we're facing. Here, I want to put everything on the table, and I'd like for you to let's find a solution together. It's a powerful way of approaching something.
Yeah, and so then talking about finding a solution together, do you have any advice for, I mean, you work with a lot of small to medium-sized enterprises, you do a lot of consultants, you see a lot of different things in the roles and the multitude of hats that you wear. Obviously very different spaces that you're always interacting now. Do you have any advice for aspiring African business leaders or entrepreneurs on enhancing their adaptive skills in today's fast-paced environment? I mean, and within Africa, you like you mentioned, we've got a multitude of different things coming at you. What can business leaders or entrepreneurs do in order to enhance their adaptive skills?
I know I'm about to sound like a broken record, my brother. But you know, because I have lots of advice I could give, but I'm gonna say a few things. If you're for aspiring African business leaders, entrepreneurs, and you're looking, to thrive in a fast-paced environment as we're going, where Africa is in the best season of their life, billions of dollars are being spent here as the world competes for our attention. And whatever you're doing, whatever field it is, the number one piece of advice I would give you that is essential is to prioritize continuous learning. Every single day, I take two classes. I take one in the morning, I take one in the evening to improve something, to learn something. When my staff comes together, the first 45 minutes of their day, get on YouTube, get on here and learn something. And I'm gonna say how important this is. I met a guy standing at the internet store, and he was saying, man, there's no educational opportunities in Africa like you have in America, you have in Europe, we just don't have it here. And I looked at him just to provoke him. Sometimes I'm a little bit vulgar. I said, man, you're stupid. You work for an internet company. What? That means your internet service is free. You got a smartphone in your hand that gives you access to the world. Harvard, Yale, major universities all over the world are educating online for free. You don't even have to pay for it, and you telling me you don't have access to learning because you need to go to the learning when learning is in your hand. And so stop using your phone to take pictures and in the bathroom and posting and watching movies and videos and all the stuff you're doing, because that's not a winning formula for you. You have to be learning. You have to stay on top of the game. You have to always, and the more you learn, the better you become. Because here's the secret. If you want to have more, and so far I've never met anybody in life that doesn't want more, you're going to have to be able to do more. But to be able to do more, you got to become more. So that's the formula right there. If you become more, you can do more. If you do more, you can have more. But you will be limited to your knowledge. Second, build a strong network for support and feedback. That's going to be mentoring is the shortcut to success. You need mentors in your life, whether it be books, whether it be when you encounter business people, ask questions, man. Ask a lot of questions. And so if you do not prioritize continuous learning, you're always going to be behind the curve. You're always going to be behind the 8 ball. You have to keep learning no matter what you're doing. So I think that's the one big piece of advice I would give.
And I absolutely love that. So needless to say, Jahzz, do you see opportunities within African businesses? Do you see opportunities, and how bright is this light shining as far as you see, as far as some of the things that you've observed?
Do I see a bright light? Wait a minute. Let me put my sunglasses on as I answer that question. I don't want to blind myself. I don't want to blind myself looking at all the opportunities.
Yeah.
In 3 years, we've started 5 companies. Opportunity is crazy opportunity here. And not only crazy opportunity, I mean, come on, common sense. I'm in Angola, I've been to Ghana, I've been to other, parts of Africa. Common sense. Chinese are here, Americans are here, Lebanese are here, Europeans are here, Australians are here. They are not here because they love Africa. They are here because this is the wealthiest continent on the face of the planet. And if they need critical minerals to make computers, to make telephones, to create AI, all these things they need Africa. So if we wake up and almost anything that you can do can be successful here. And check this out. You don't have to invent anything new. You just got to look what's there and say, can I do this better? Business is about solving problems. And let me, oh boy, I gotta close with this, but let me say this.
Tell me.
The universities indirectly are in collaboration with big business. There's only 2 things big business needs to be successful. They need employees, and they need to work in their companies, and they need consumers to buy the product. So you get this 4-year university degree because somebody told you to get a good job, you need a good education. So the school takes your money, you pay them, half the time paying for stuff that you'll never need in life. And when you come out of school, and I'm not saying don't go to school, I'm just saying don't let the school use you, use the school. Because 95% of our students will come out of school with a piece of paper in their hand, thinking because of their education, they're going to get a good job, only to be told you don't have experience. And what is the first thing you do when you graduate from the university? You go look for a job.
JLB.
Every other country comes into Africa and they look for a business to run or own. They do not look for jobs. So the school has done a great job in helping big business. They turned you into an employee. And when you get that check, you're going to become a consumer because you're going out to buy something. And that's what makes big business successful, turning people into employees. And I'm saying this in Africa. Your key to whatever it is you want to do in life, you've got to come out with an entrepreneur spirit. That is the key for Africa. It is right for it. Don't let others come into your backyard and see the opportunities that you refuse to see. It's here, and the time is now.
Jahzz, you know what? I absolutely love the way you ended that. It is no more prevalent with what we're trying to talk about here. It's all about transformational leadership. It's all about adaptive leadership. It's all about taking the opportunities that are sitting right in front of you. And you know, some of the things that you've highlighted, though there are issues or some challenges that might exist, whether it's infrastructure, access to finance, whether it is the local market, but within all of that sits opportunities in abundance. And in order for us to be able to seize that opportunity, we have to be open-minded, we have to be flexible, we have to be resilient. We have to growth mindset. Even beyond that, we have to continuous learning.
And the one thing I would want your listeners to know, that if you can see the opportunity, if you can see the possibility in your mind, then you will be able to see the opportunity with your eyes.
Yeah.
The vision that you have in your heart is more important than the vision you see with your eyes.
Yeah.
And when you understand that, it's the vision of never let the vision in your eyesight be greater than the vision in your heart. Because if you can see the possibility in your mind, you will see the opportunity with your eyes.
And you know what? That's all it is. That's what it's all about. It's about having that vision. It's about and then driving towards that, because we've got everything around us that we need in order to make it happen. And you know, you want to have more. You have to do more in order to become more. The knowledge, the vision, and the perspective are some of the most important things. Jahzz, I want to absolutely thank you for coming onto the podcast today. And in the many hats that you wear, the many projects that you get involved in, I wish you nothing but success. And I hope that you continue inspiring a whole lot of different entrepreneurs, a whole host of businesses, not only in Angola, but even as your presence is on T4L and or this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure that this episode's got like a ton of quotes that I'm going to be going back and writing them down and putting them on my window or putting them on my mirror so that I don't forget them, because you really shared some of your insights, some of your perspectives, and you know, more so than anything, you've come from a different world and you have realized the opportunities that are surrounding you within Angola. And sometimes when we sit in some of these opportunities, we fail to see them. And that's the biggest travesty of it all. You mentioned this population is huge. The opportunities are great. And at the end of the day, it's time for us to stand up and be counted. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for sharing your views and your insights.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you. Much love and respect.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we embark on our mission to impact 1 million African lives by 2026.